Well, guys, I'm going to start work on this PTO shaft. From our initial inspection, that uni joint has been replaced. It's got a grease nipple in it, whereas I'm tipping that one is the original. There's no grease nipple in it. Now, it's moving free enough, and it doesn't appear there's any slack, but yeah, I just don't want to take a chance. I'm going to see if I can pull this apart and clean it up properly and maybe replace that joint. It would have obviously done enough work to wear out a uni joint, whether that's from lack of grease or what, who knows. So it's done a bit of work, but it could have been hard work, I think. What else have we got? This cup here, or cone, is tack welded on. It looks like it's on a screw thread other than that. So I'm going to see if I can cut those welds or grind them back. Take that off, take this right apart and clean it properly. It's pretty crappy. Obviously that slides in there. Now you'll see there's a thread there. That would have had a cap on it, which number one would help seal the grease. Number two, it would help retain it on that shaft. That's missing, so as I say, look, I don't know who's been working on it, but oh, it's on a master spline too, you can see there. I don't know who's been working on it, but yeah, I've got to pull it apart a bit to clean it up to make it nice. There's no point doing all this work and putting it back looking like the way it is, so we'll keep going. Well, as I was saying, guys, I started pulling these circlips out of these uni joints, and they were promptly breaking. I thought, right, well, that's got to come off so I can get in on it to work it. So I just, as I said, I ground those welds with the Dremel, give it a tap, and that cone come off, so I can clean that up properly now and panel beat it a bit and get in there a bit easier to get this uni joint apart. I'm pretty sure I'll be able to get one. If I can't, then I may have to get something cut off and re-welded with a, you know, a more universal type uni. Oh, it's a pun and I didn't even know it. A more, you know, more modern uni, or you know what I mean, guys. Gotta love a bit of powder coating, guys. That's the other main pulley, you know, next to, that's the driver, that's the driven, that's the hub that it runs on, and that sits in there. I've ordered some seals for that, but yeah, I powder coated that. Oh, got a bit of a mark on it there. Bit of gloss black will fix that, but yeah, come up all right, come up really nice. So it's worth putting in a bit of effort, and I'm hoping for similar results on this tail shaft, which finally I've got apart. Yeah, that goes in there, as you know. Pardon me, camera work. Yeah, got that off. Got the uni joint out in about 50 million bits. But we'll clean it all up. I'm pretty confident I'll be able to get something that'll fit. As I said, yeah, that's about it for bloody tractors for the day. Well, guys, occasionally you get a dilemma. I'm just working on this PTO shaft for the Fergie. As you know, I had to cut the welds off to get that cone off, which is fine. It needs a lot of cleaning up, where I had to cut the weld, so on and so on. It needs a lot of cleaning up, bit of panel beat, and it's not the straightest thing. But just looking at it now, my plan is to powder coat this shaft. So obviously that would have to be welded on around that collar, whatever you want to call it, first. And then I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, well, if I put that on and put that back like so, looking at that, I am going to have very little to no room to put that universal joint in. You need to be able to get a clear tap at the sides to install them. What I'm thinking is this cone may have been installed after the uni joint was put in, tacked on or welded on, and then the whole thing painted together, which might account for the lack of paint in the inside of that. Now, I can't see any purpose for it other than protection, in other words, safety. If I was to take that off, we're going to end up with that, and we're going to end up with that, like so. Now, yeah, it is a rotating piece, and if you get your finger caught in it, it will tear your finger straight off, no doubt about it. However, looking at the other end, you got the same result. That's the PTO end at the tractor. There's no cover around that. For ease of repair, and I don't condone anything unsafe, I don't think I'm going to put that back. It'll be a lot easier to reassemble the shaft. It'll be a lot easier for me to clean that up and paint it properly. I can't see any other reason for it other than protection. If I'm wrong, be it on my head. I'll keep the part, because if it does do something else, I can always pull that back out and refit that at a later date. But yeah, at this stage, I'm not going to put that back. Yeah, I'm never one to ask for comments, and I don't ask for subscribers and that, but if you've got any opinions on it, let me know, even though by the time the bloody video gets put on YouTube, it'll be done anyway. But I'd be interested to hear any feedback on that. I don't know, I can't see the point why we're covering that end and not that end, except this is closer to the working end. I don't think there's anything that hangs in the way, you know, cables, chains, that sort of thing. If there is, I'll move them. Yeah, we'll leave that off. For ease of, you know, no, I don't use the word restoration, but for ease of, you know, repair and what have you, we'll leave that off, I think. Well, that's the push rod on, guys. You can swing that out of the way, obviously, to get at the other bits and pieces in here. So yeah, that come up right. I just did it in well, a mix of gloss and that flat black, that sort of tar paint. That's the ball joint. You've seen that. That's just copper coat grease, and that sort of sits like that. Yeah, that come up all right. Yeah, not too bad. We've just painted the yoke for the PTO shaft, and I'm just doing a little bit of an experiment, which I'll show you later, and we're just about to, I'll just run the threads in this and clean up the bolts and that, and that'll get that bit out of the way. Guys, rightly or wrongly, never be scared to try something different. This is the propeller shaft, or, you know, off the PTO. And I was just playing around with a bit of paint. I'll fix that up a little bit. And I thought, stuff it, we'll do the old barber's pole routine. It's not my idea, it's been well done before. And I probably could have done a better job, but it's not bad. You get the idea. So when it's spinning around at 1,000 revs, you won't see it anyway. But yeah, never be afraid to try something different. Well, guys, the trick here now, I managed to get a brand new uni joint. Look at that. Sure looks right. That's from the brilliant guys at BSC bearing place in Bairnsdale, and they're terrific in there. It's just a free ad for them, but they're really good. They always try to help you out. The challenge here is going to be to get that together without scratching the paint. We're just going to have to see how we go here. I'll just sort of go at it gently, and we should be all right. I mean, it's only gloss black. I can touch it up. I just don't want to have to. But yeah, and we'll have a bloody corkscrewed PTO shaft. Well, guys, managed to get that together without any real drama. Only problem is, seeing there's that hole for a grease nipple. Unfortunately, that grease nipple's too big, and I think it might interfere. I'll give it another try, but yeah, I think it's just a little bit too big. Just wants a little straight one that you can just get in there. But yeah, we'll see how we go, but I think it's too tall. Well, guys, that's the PTO shaft in, and the pulley and bearings and associated stuff. Come up all right. Unfortunately, the belts are miles too big, so if you're going out on my advice, don't buy a B47 because it's going to be smaller, so I'm sorry if anyone's done that. Yeah, tail shaft's in, come up all right. And it's rotating free enough, new universal joint in there. Yeah, got to do the other end, of course, down here that attaches to the PTO shaft, but it's starting to look like a sickle mower or finger bar mower, whatever they call them. Pulleys appear to be in alignment. yeah, so yeah, it's looking good. Well, guys, we're about to start on this the other main part of the assembly. That's pretty much done, as I mentioned. This, of course, has to be all done up. That's where the bar bolts onto, so on and so on. That point there attaches up in the middle between those two pulleys. Bloody heavy, don't mind telling you. It's all cast iron by the looks of it. Cast steel, cast iron. Yeah, obviously it's all going to be cleaned up. I don't know how well it's going to come apart. We're going to find out. Yeah, I think it's all pretty serviceable. Just wants a good tidy up. Well, in the beginning, guys, I said I didn't think this thing had done that much work. Yeah, it's done a bit. Anyway, whoever's been working on it wants to go back to bloody trade school, I think. I haven't even started on this yet. I've just taken that grease nipple out of there to get some WD-40 in there. This pin in that section is seized. It's free in there, but it's seized in there. And you can see that pin just there has been getting belted so hard that it's actually burred right over. God only knows what they were trying to do there. That one's free, but I'm tipping to get that pin out. I'm going to have to put a heap of heat on this. I'd say it's seized, but yeah, that's why I pulled that grease nipple and started putting WD-40 in. Hopefully it'll free up, but yeah, it's, you know, yeah, it's, he spaced that out so he could put a smaller split pin in there by the looks of it. It just looks like a lack of maintenance, and the maintenance that whoever owned it has been done is just bullshit, to put it plainly. Yeah, just some spots have been really butchered. I was also looking at this bolt and assembly goes through that hole, and I noticed that's flogged out. I noticed it at the start, but I thought it might have been how it's meant to be. I don't think it is, so I'm going to make up a steel spacer that goes in there somehow and bring it up to level, because that pin there, which goes through the middle of those rubbers, was actually sticking well out and sticking into that aluminium housing, and I don't reckon that's right. There's a little bit of wear on it, but yeah, now we might just rework that a little bit, but yeah, whoever's been having a go, hence, as I said earlier, that thread, I mean, look at that, that's part of the thread. It's never been threaded in properly. Wasp nest in there. Yeah, just whoever's, yeah, we'll leave it at that. Well, guys, that's that assembly apart. There's some of it down there. As I haven't got a tripod, I didn't show you the disassembly, but I can tell you it needed a lot of heat and a lot of banging to get it apart. Some of these bushing, some of the shafts and bushings, you know, the bushings are good actually. Just the shafts are a bit seized in, never been lubricated, just probably been sitting for 20 years, you know, who knows. So, but it's apart, and we can clean it all up, make it nice, and a bit of paint here and there. Got to do a bit of machine work, turn them up a bit, clean them up, so on and so on. Most of it's not too bad, it's just stuck and old and rusty, and just needs a good clean. Guys, that's that threaded yoke, whatever you want to call it, that fits on the end of that that shaft over there. Remember I told you the thread was pulled? I've just had the little Dremel out and get the light right and cleaned up the thread and come up okay. So with a bit of grease and that and a couple of runs up and down the thread, that'll be just fine. I haven't got a tap that size, but yeah, that'll be absolutely perfect. Said it before and I'll say it again, guys. The worst part of these jobs is cleaning everything. It just seems to take forever, but when you get results like that, it's just been powder coated, makes it worthwhile, you know. That's I think that's part of that breakaway device. Just finished all that. come up nice, you know. It's sort of worth the effort to clean it all up, you know. It's yeah, I don't know, maybe it's me, but yeah, they come up good. So and they've just been buffed and a little bit on the linisher and just blacked, you know. Turn them sort of cherry red and dip them in the oil and yeah, rerun the threads and that come up all right. Guys, that's that pin out of this thing. Remember I told you that was all burnt over and someone had been belting shit out of it and all of that. Looking at it, by the time I dress all that up and clean it up, I'm going to be halfway through that bloody hole. And the same as that end. Look where that is. So what I'm going to do, I'll get some measurements and I'll turn up a new pin. I've got some really good material. So I'll turn up a new pin for that. It's just going to, as I say, by the time I clean all that up, because I don't want to put it looking back, you know, back looking like that. It looked bloody terrible. Yeah, so no, I'll turn up a new one of them. That's the beauty of having a bit of a lathe over there. Yeah, no, we'll. I'm sure we can improve on that. Well, there we have it, guys. One pin. Come up nice. The fit's perfect. Yeah, so that'll be okay. I've only just drilled the holes a bit smaller just to suit the split pins I've got there. 4.5 or 5 mil, which that hole is. So. Yeah, that'll be a little bit better than that other bloody thing, I tell you. Looks like we finally got the right belt, guys. It was a B44. I presume that means 44 inches, and a whatever the bloody hell that size is in there appears to be right. So there's another number there for you. Yeah, that appears to be the right belt. It's pulled up nice and tight. One's slightly tighter than the other, but that should be okay. So, yeah, we're ready to rock. Bit more detail work, guys. Powder coated on the ends there, so that come up nice. Just cleaned up the nuts and just that black, you know, and I just polished that bit there just on the buff over there. It's, what do they call it? Poor man's chrome. But a bit of detail and can really lift a job. As I say, just grind, I've said it before and I'll say it again, just grinding off a lot of the casting marks can really bring up a piece. That's another part of it. They're still warm, it's just out of the powder coat. But yeah, just as I say, just grinding off casting marks can lift the whole thing. Of course, that's not original. That's purely a matter of opinion, whether that matters or not. And just blacking up the nuts and bolts, a few of them, just clean them up, dress them up and that. And yeah, coming along all right. And I put that main beam, I guess you'd call it. That's the one with the machined end up there, not the one with the ball joint. That's that one. That's for that breakaway device, I think it was. Yeah, that went in all right, seemed to come up okay. All moving all right and that, but starting to looks like a bit of a dog's breakfast again, but we're getting there. Cleaning, and more cleaning. Just pulled the wheel apart there. Bit of Slade going in the background. That's the bracket for it. That's cleaned up. That'll be powder coated. The nuts and bolts are done. That's the brass bushing out of the middle of that wheel. No grease nipple or anything, but a brass or bronze bushing. That goes with that. That's got to be powder coated. That nut come up all right. That's the one I polished up and blacked it. That come up good. Yeah, got to get stuck into this. There is evidence of wear here. You can see it hasn't worn straight and it's sort of burred over. Yeah, we'll clean it all up anyway. Cleaned up the other part, which is that piece. So that come up all right, and yeah, that's about that. A few more bits on the mower, guys. That assembly there, It's got to be all adjusted, of course. That's why nothing's tight. Don't ask me what it does. I have no idea. Obviously, when that lifts up, that moves into lock into that other part over there on the bench, the other part of this assembly. Don't know what it does though. But yeah, it's all slowly coming together. But yeah, a lot of adjustments and this and that I'm just not sure about. It's going to be a real sort of hit and miss, trial and error, I think. But because I haven't got a manual, if I could find a manual, it'd be a help. Well, guys, we're going to start work on this knife assembly, I guess you call it, scissor assembly, knife assembly. That just slides straight through there, as you can see. A lot of it's, in the beginning I thought that had stuff all wear. Well, that proved to be incorrect. There was a lot of slop in that way. You can see the ends being worked on, but it appears to be it's got a little bit of a bend there, which I'm going to get out. A few dodgy repairs, as I've seen on other things on this thing. But yeah, we've got a lot of wear. I think I mentioned this earlier. You can look at the thickness there, and then look at it there, and same thing there and there. The whole assembly, obviously, because as the tractor's going that way, it's pushing everything that way, so it's going to load up that way. Just trying to think, should I build that up with weld, and I can put it on the mill and turn it down square? Don't know. It's cast iron, so I'd have to get some cast iron rods or something, I suppose. So I just don't know. But yeah, anyway, looking at this thing, I loosened off some of these fingers, and all of those, that shim and that top bit are actually adjustable. So that means that whole thing can go that way. Takes out a lot, because there was a lot of slack there. It'll take out a lot of that slack. So, and that's the same right along. So that'll clean that up. This, as I say, appears to be, it's got a slight bow in it, but that could be just the way I'm holding it. It's not the thickest of metal. Obviously, it's all got to be sharpened and that, but they're all there. Yeah, as I say, I think the only adjustment I've got is that way, and possibly up and down a little bit via shims. I think I'd want to be pulling shims out, looking at the amount of wear on it, not necessarily putting them in. That could be wrong. A lot of these other parts were shimmed, for example, under that edge, whatever you want to call it, that was shimmed under that. That bolts down in there, and then those shims go on top of that, and then that goes down like so. Somehow, there's a bit of wear on that. You can see there, that is worn deeper than it is there. I don't know how critical I have to get on worn out stuff here. Like if it's completely buggered, yeah, that's fine, it's got to be fixed. But yeah, I don't know, a little bit of slack. I don't think you'd want it too tight. If there's any flex in that, that could tend to jam the whole scissor assembly, whatever your knife assembly. Don't know, I just don't know enough about these, but we're going to see if we can shim it up and get it sort of, not tight, but just, you know, just so it runs along without a heap of slack in it. I watched a video and the guy recommended tipping oil all over it just before you use it. Now that makes perfect sense, but how long's that going to last? And another fella said, no, don't bother. He said the moisture out of grass and hay will be more than enough lubricant. So once again, without the manual, I don't know. We'll see how we go. Well, I tell you what, guys, something had to fight me, and this was the thing. Those bloody fingers, they're on a, sort of like a coach bolt. Where is one? There's one. And it's got those little lugs down the bottom. You can sort of see they're like a square. Of course, every one of them span. Yeah, so some I had to cut off, some I had to bloody chisel off. Yeah, a bit of focus there, that's better. Yeah, real bastard of a thing, but we got them all off. I mean, things like that. How the bloody hell do you bend that? Now, that goes through, where are we? That goes through there, and that is an adjustment of some type. That goes on the other side of that. So you can lower or raise that, I imagine. I mean, whoever's used this thing has just been that rough. But yeah, it's fighting me, but we got all those bloody things off. I was going to take them all off in the order that they were on, and I just got the shits with it, and I'll bloody well make it work no matter what order they are. But yeah, we've got to clean that up. It's got a slight bow in it down the end there, just a slight bend. We're going to have to get that out somehow. Might need quite a bit of heat. We'll see about that, but she's apart. Now the laborious task of cleaning them all up. Don't even know what I'll do with them yet. They might be powder coated, they might just be buffed up and left raw, which is what I'm thinking. Don't know. But yeah, so lots of cleaning up to do here, and just trying to think what's the best way. I mean, yeah, I don't know if I was to dip them in acid or something and leave them soak, or I just don't know on that one. So yeah, or tumble them somehow, but I haven't got a machine to do that. Come up with something. Well, got the I guess the main bottom of the main frame done. That's been that bit there. That's that pin that I machined, that one. That come up well. Everything fitted nice and all. Clean grease and all of that. This has still got to be adjusted. I don't know exactly how that's got to be at this stage. Got the wheel back on. So that's done. Yeah, so we made a little bit more progress there. Yeah, that's about it. Just still working on that. Haven't started on these yet. And just cleaned up the bar, so that's going to just be painted black. So that come up all right. Managed to get the bends out of it. It's 97% straight. I think it'll be all right. Yeah, getting there and just cleaning up a few more nuts and bolts. Well, guys, the time come to try out the sharpener. All very temporary. I've got a motor clamp down, got the sharpener clamp down. Yeah, that part's working all right. You just got to keep oil in these bushes. Yeah, we're getting an edge. It seems to be working all right. It's a bit rough. It might just want the pardon me, the stone just to dress it slightly, but it is doing the job. Yeah, it seems to be working. I've got to come back and do that tooth, but this is all a bit wobbly in that assembly, which sort of changes its alignment a little bit. But by Christ, it's getting, it's getting done what we need to get done. But I think I may have to look at that side a little bit. But I tell you what, if you put your finger in it, it'd cut your finger off. Well, the finger bar's back on, guys. I haven't put the end on yet, obviously, which is that thing. So that'll go on shortly. Yeah, put it all back together. It seems to be rotating just fine. I haven't put any shims under any of this yet. Reason being, the shims were probably from the factory. That's, of course, long since worn. I've got the shims, but I've assembled it without the shims, and it still seems to rotate quite freely with a little bit of clearance. So I reckon we're going to be all right. Look, it's not going to be a miracle thing. I think it's going to be fiddly, but it's back together, and if you rotate the shaft, the whole assembly is moving nicely. So yeah, I think it'll be all right. I mean, as I say, it's a showpiece. It's not a showpiece. It's a working display. It's not going back to work. I'm not doing 10 acres a day with the bloody thing. It'll be lucky if it does an acre in the rest of its life with me, but it's just merely a toy. And yeah, once, as you know, I'm fascinated with machines, so yeah, it's coming along. It'll get there. Well, this is pardon me. I've got the COVID or some bloody thing at the moment. This is pretty much the last piece, guys. This is, I guess, a stabilising arm that goes between, well, that threaded area screws into that part down there, which we had to rethread a bit, as you know. And that part there pins in under that point there. So that stabilises right across that plane. I think that's what it does. As for this, I don't know exactly what this spring thing does yet. That chain runs down to this, where is it? I think it runs to that from memory. So how it all adjusts, I do not know, but and what this thing does, I wouldn't have a clue. That plug's threaded in. Tipping there might be some sort of spring in there or something. Don't quite know what's going on with that, but we're going to pull it apart and have a look. I want to know. The rest of it's pretty straightforward. Looks like there's a pin holding that in location. That's a bit bent. We'll straighten that. Well, I guess it's bent. We'll pull it to bits, clean it up, and yeah, we're getting very close to considering putting it on the tractor and hooking it up to some power. Pardon my finger there. Well, after a bit of banging and a bit of heating and a bit of swearing and this and that, we got that apart. That piece down there is still a bit hot to touch. As I suspected, in that is this spring and a detent, which goes into there. I can't touch any of this yet. And that's a locating pin for that one. So that's not adjustable, obviously, for distance. Pretty straightforward. It's just a matter of letting it cool down, clean up all the bits. I'll see how hard it is to pull this spring assembly apart and have a go at tidying it up a bit. You know what I mean? See if we can make that look a little bit better than that. Got to straighten that, as you know. Yeah, basically let's just clean up the parts. I'm not quite sure why that would have to move. And when that's pinned in there, it can only move that way, which is towards the front of the tractor, if it had to move. But for whatever reason, you'd have to overcome that spring now. Yeah, not quite sure how all that works. I'd be interested to find, if anyone knows, I'm not asking for comments, but if anyone knows, I'd love to hear, because I'm not quite sure how all that works. Just looking at this shaft, guys, or this, whatever this bloody thing is, that end attaches to the mower, as I've mentioned, and that end goes up towards the front of the tractor, and that's all attached. I've mentioned that. But looking closely at this detent, the piece can't move that way, in other words up there, because that piece that goes there is pinned, but it can move that way. Now you can see the difference in the wear of that detent. So for whatever reason, that has to be able to do that. That's why that's sprung. So for that to do that, that means that whole assembly would have to go that way, which means if that's on the ground like that, that means that would have to come towards me. So what I'm thinking is, say if that bar got caught on, oh, I don't know, a rock or something like that, that's going to pull that whole assembly, because you're travelling that way, that's going to pull that whole assembly this way. And that may that joins to that spring assembly. Somehow that may either lift it or disconnect it or something like that. I'm not quite sure. I think it'll become apparent as we get it together, but that is designed to move. How it could have moved, I don't know, because it's got paint all over it and it was bloody tight. So when that goes back, we'll clean this right up so it can move freely if it has to. And the detent otherwise holds it in place, but it is definitely designed to move. So watch this space. That's the, I don't even know I think it's part of the breakaway assembly. I'm not sure, guys. Powder coat, powder coat, powder coat, powder coat, rattle can. Cleaned up all right. Had to make a little special tool just to undo the spring. Just got a bit of all thread. Ran it through there and just pulled the nuts in, and that compresses the spring, and you can take those two nuts off. All the other bits are cleaned up for that. Just really got to clean up 1, 2, 3, and it's basically ready to put those components on, put it on the tractor and try it out and start adjusting everything. We're getting pretty close. Well, we're pretty much down to the last piece here, guys, which is the top link. We'll just split that, clean it up, give it a lick of paint, and tidy up the nuts and bolts, and that'll be just about it. I've finished that other piece. I'm sure that's that breakaway device or whatever it is. I can't think of the name of it. Wish I had a repair manual. Anyway, it is what it is. That come up all right. We're getting very close to actually taking the carry-all off and putting it on the tractor. Well, we're just about there, guys. Basically, it's ready to go on the tractor, but it won't be happening today. I've got other things to do. Yeah, I think it's right. Some of the alignment on some stuff looks a bit dicky. Yeah, we'll see what it looks like once it's actually sitting on the 3-point. I don't know about adjustment on any of that. There's adjustments down there. There's adjustments there. There's adjustments all over the bloody thing. But we should... I think it'll work. I don't know how sharp it's going to be and all that, but it'll work. But it's more just the adjustments. I just don't know what's what. I'll said it before and I'll say it again. It'd be great if I had a bloody operator's manual for it. I don't, so I'm bound to make mistakes. But yeah, anyway, so what we'll do tomorrow or the next day, we'll take the carry-all off and we can basically sit it on the tractor and see what it's going to do. I don't see any problem with the rotating assemblies. The bar's free enough, new uni joint, all that's been checked out. It's more just the adjustments, but look, if this thing does an acre in the next 10 years, it'll be a miracle. It's, as I've said from the start, it's a working display. Well, she's on. Standard 3-point, 1, 2, 3. I've put one stabiliser on, which is that one. The other one won't work. Had to turn that pin around down there. That's provided I've got everything the right way, which I think I have. These set your pitch of the blade. So in other words, more pointing up or more pointing down. That obviously works off that chain that goes down the front there. That will take up that clearance. That will also change how far that bar drops down, I think. A few adjustments to make here yet, and I've got them put under those. I've just started to make up this. That has got to go in under there so that chain there can hook up. So you'll have to undo those bolts and hopefully get that in there. We'll give it a damn good try. That's better. Yeah, so a little bit of stuff to do yet. Haven't hooked up the PTO for obvious reasons. Yeah, I think this is going to be just the hard part, is just getting all the silly little adjustments right. Got to put that end piece on over there, that piece over there, and set a few heights. I could probably bring that wheel up a little bit or down a little bit just to lift that. Yeah, I suppose it just depends on what height you want everything. You know, do you want to cut 2 inches? Do you want to cut 4? Do you want to cut 6? I suppose. Everything seems to have clearances and all of that. Yeah, we'll just keep mucking about. Well, guys, she's pretty well all hooked up, bar one thing. Unfortunately, I had the original PTO shaft. This one requires a slightly bigger spline. Now, I've bought an adapter, but the adapter's going to be too long, and you see that gap there? When that goes through its arc, lifting up and down, it closes up. So I'm going to have to get the shorter shaft with the bigger spline on it. Not a big deal, but I can test run it. Everything else is hooked up and ready to go. I think I've got all this pretty well adjusted. There's no load on any of it at the moment because it's on the ground. We're going to start it up. We're going to engage the PTO and we're going to see what happens. Yeah, she's all, as I say, it's all there. It's all ready to go. It's rotating. But yeah, we won't lift it up at this point. So we'll put our control on low. Yeah, we'll start. I haven't actually got any grass to cut. was going to go out in the paddocks, but as you can see, it has been that cold and miserable here. The grass has not grown 1 bloody millimetre in months. Plus there's 2 horses down there, so if I go cutting anything, there won't be feed for them. So I'll wait till I get the proper shaft, and then hopefully the grass has grown a bit and I'll give you a demonstration. But yeah, we'll kick it in the guts and see what's going to happen. Well, it's working, guys. I'm not going to put my fingers too close to it. That little piece of twig, it seems to cut that all right. So it should cut grass. Yeah, she's a bit of a rattler, but it's doing it. Let's just pick up the revs just a touch. Seems to be all right. It's all running. I mean, it bloody jumps around, but yeah, it's working. Well, guys, that's it for this one. Yeah, we'll see you on the next one. Take care.